According to reports, there is an increasing tension within the Ferrari team as Charles Leclerc expressed dissatisfaction with his teammate Carlos Sainz's performance during the Australian Grand Prix. This could potentially lead to a conflict between the two drivers. Leclerc was reportedly displeased with Sainz's behavior during the qualifying round, which has further exacerbated the already strained relationship between the two drivers. As a result, team principal Fred Vasseur may need to step in and intervene in order to defuse the situation. I know you want to hear all about it, so let's continue with the video. Despite finishing behind Carlos Sainz in the 2021 season, Charles Leclerc, who came in second in the Drivers' Championship, has been considered as the team's primary driver for a while now. However, it seems that the 25-year-old is not happy with Sainz, as he criticised him for not assisting him in improving his pace during the Melbourne race. Most Formula One teams have a practice of instructing their drivers to take turns in providing each other with a tow, wherein one driver pulls ahead for a few seconds to allow the other to gain an aerodynamic advantage from the slipstream. However, during Sainz's turn to provide a tow, Leclerc appeared to be dissatisfied with the assistance he received and made a sarcastic remark on the team radio about the Spaniard's lack of help. He said, "Big thanks to Carlos for the tow. Got a bit of speed there, always nice." Peter Windsor, a former team manager for Williams and Ferrari, who now works as an F1 pundit, was taken aback by Leclerc's irritable reaction and referred to the driver as naive for assuming that Sainz, who is 28 years old, would yield to him after expressing his dissatisfaction with the tow incident. Windsor said on his YouTube channel, "I thought that it was odd that he made that public, that he was upset about that, because you've got to live in your own world and you've got to be very cocooned when you're at Ferrari. You've got your guys and you've got to work in a very apolitical way. So it was quite a political reaction I think he had to it all." To me, even if Charles felt that Carlos was in a position to help him, I think it's quite naive of him to think that Carlos would. Why would Carlos Sainz help Charles Leclerc any more than Charles would help Carlos, really? Maybe he would, because he doesn't really ever see Carlos as a true threat, but Carlos Sainz has just come off a very good Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. I think partly because of that, he, Leclerc, didn't qualify well, and he had a terrible race. We all know what happened in the race, and that's part of not qualifying well. In recent times, Leclerc's rapport with the team has been under strain, following the departure of some crucial mechanics and the previous boss, Mattia Binotto. However, despite holding a team meeting at their Maranello base, Leclerc refuted any claims of issues behind the scenes. In March, he stated, "Everyone is fully on it and fully positive still, which is great. We all need to push in the same direction. As I said, this is the most important. There have been loads of rumours around the team, which, for once, 90% of them were completely unfounded. I don't know from where it is coming from, and to be honest, I don't want to even spend any energy on trying to find from where it's coming from. We just need to be on it and focus on ourselves." And to add fuel to the fire, Charles Leclerc referred to Pierre Gasly as his closest friend on the F1 grid, while the two were enjoying some leisure time during the spring break when they watched the Monte Carlo Masters tennis tournament. "I'm actually with my best friend in Pierre Gasly. We race on track, but we're also good friends outside of the track. Sport has very strong values, and it's amazing to see such a big sport event here in Monaco." This issue between the two Ferrari drivers appears to be driving a wedge between them, and it may very well affect their futures. A bold and intriguing rumour emerged last Saturday night as Swiss newspaper Blick reported that Carlos Sainz, a Ferrari driver, might be transferring to Audi's new Formula One team from 2026 onwards. Sainz has been finding it challenging to match Leclerc's speed. Although team chief Fred Vasseur regards the drivers as equals, Leclerc is arguably the top driver for the Maranello-based team, and is widely anticipated to be the one who will lead Ferrari back to their glory days at the forefront of the grid. In contrast, Sainz has only been with the legendary constructor for a little over 2 seasons, and has only been able to secure one race victory. Nonetheless, it appears that Sainz may not have to concern himself with the demands of the Ferrari team, since recent rumours suggest that Sauber CEO Andrea Seidel has placed the Spaniard at the top of his list for potential drivers for Audi. If Sauber decides to transition to Audi, they will receive a significant infusion of German funding, which, according to the team, will enable them to produce championship-winning cars in as little as 3 years. Going back to the events of the Australian Grand Prix, as a result of causing a collision with Fernando Alonso from Aston Martin, Sainz was penalised and subsequently dropped out of the point-scoring positions in Melbourne. The incident occurred after a disorderly standing restart on the penultimate lap, which led to 2 other crashes before the race was stopped for the 3rd time. Although Frédéric Vasseur did not disclose the details of Ferrari's justification, he implied that his team is displeased with the inconsistency surrounding the lack of penalties for 2 additional incidents that took place during the same restart. "We did the petition for review of the case, we sent it to the FIA, Vasseur said. As we are discussing with the FIA, I don't want to disclose any details of this discussion." Following the collision between Sainz and Alonso, a severe crash occurred between Alpine teammates Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon, and another collision took place between Logan Sargent from Williams and Nick de Vries from AlphaTauri during the same restart. While Sainz and Alonso only suffered minor damage and were able to continue at the back of the pack, the other 4 vehicles involved in the incidents were forced to retire from the race. The FIA made 2 decisions after the incidents. First, the remaining 12 cars would complete a processional final lap behind the safety car in the order from the standing restart. Sainz was given a 5-second penalty that prevented him from creating a gap to the cars behind him and led to him finishing last among those who finished the race. Gasly and Ocon were cleared of any wrongdoing after meeting with the stewards post-race, and the collision between Sargent and de Vries was not investigated. The only thing is that about Gasly-Ocon, also Sargent de Vries, turn 1, and the reaction of the stewards was not the same, Vasseur said. What we can expect is to at least have an open discussion with them. Also, for the good of the sport, to avoid to have this kind of decision when you have 3 cases at the same corner and not the same decision. Sainz was extremely upset with the ruling, initially calling it the most unjustifiable penalty he had ever witnessed in his career over team radio, and later referring to it as one of the biggest disgraces in the history of the sport. The biggest frustration from Carlos, you heard it on the radio, was to not have hearings, because the case was very special, Vasseur added. In this case, I think it would have made sense, considering that the race was over and it was not affecting the podium, to have the hearings as Gasly and Ocon had. Vasseur expressed his desire that the FIA would resolve Ferrari's appeal before the upcoming Azerbaijan Grand Prix on April 28th to 30th, but acknowledged that the governing body has control over the process. Until then, what do you think of the conflict in Ferrari? Is another Perez-Verstappen situation in the works? Tell us what you think in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Thanks for watching.